look at how to find the range of a trigonometrical function. Now, the trigonometrical function can be found in two ways also, just like the period. You can find it from the function, and this time we're going to be a bit brief. So it's going to be, if you have a function 3 cos x plus 5, and what you're simply doing here is, from the function you are looking for the coefficient of the ratio. So the coefficient of the ratio is the number there, this number there. That number is the number that tells you how to find the domain, the range. But whenever you look at this number, you must always look at it in connection with this number here. So those two numbers will help you to find the range. So what you are going to do is, you're going to say, okay, fine, I am at 5. If I go up 3, 6, 7, 8, that means I'll go up to 8 there. And if I go down 3, 4, 3, 2, that means I'll have 2. So in other words, my range will be y, an element of, and we are using square bracket for range, starting from 2 going to 8. And that's very simple. So let's look at it again. Let's look at another function. F of x is equal to 4 sine x. Yeah. So now, do you notice that this time I did not put the second number? So if you look, I'm looking at this number. I'm supposed to be looking at another number there, but there is no number there. So the number which we have there is going to be 0, because there is nothing. And then it means that I must move up 4. So I'm going to move up 1, 2, 3, 4. So there I'm going to have my 4 there. And then I'm going to move down 1, 2, 3. So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. So here I'm going to have minus 4. So when I'm looking at my range, in this case, my range will be y, an element of square bracket, the lowest number is minus 4 to 4. And that's how we find our range from a function. Sometimes the function has got a number here, sometimes it doesn't. So I've looked at two situations where you've got numbers. What if my number was negative? What if my coefficient was negative? I'm going to use two negative numbers. F of x is equal to minus 3 cos 2x minus 8. So in this case, now you are saying, okay, fine, I am looking at the two numbers, this number and this number. It's like that. So now when I'm looking at this number, these two numbers, I'm just saying I am going to start at minus 8. Minus 8 is clearly coming from there. Do you see? Right? Then now with these 3 here, you are not going to look at its negativeness. You are just going to take the positive number to say, I am moving up how many? I'm moving down how many? So in this case, we are moving up 3. So minus 8, minus 7, minus 6, minus 5. So this one becomes minus 5. And then I move down. Again, I'm moving down. Minus 8. If I'm going down, minus 9, minus 10, minus 11. So this one will become minus 11. And now, if I want to find my range will be range y is an element of minus 11 to minus 5. They are square brackets. So it's very easy. to look at it. Remember when we looked at the one with the negative here, even though this one is a negative, this one here, it's a negative, we don't use that sign. We're just saying from this number here, we move up 3 steps. Never mind that you are seeing a negative there, and we move down 3 steps. Some people use addition to say if we add -3 and we subtract -3, we'll still get those 2 numbers. Okay, so that's how we find range. Now let's look at when we have got a graph. When we have been given a graph, excuse me, when we have been given a graph and I want to find my range, this is the simplest way. But whenever they present these graphs, they always try to make sure that they put some tricks onto it. So you must be very careful. So in this case, you look at the numbers. So I'm just going to look at the 2 numbers. So in this case, there is this. That's the maximum number. That's the minimum number and the maximum number. So let's say if this was 10 and this one was -10, you just look at the top one here and the bottom y values. So the y value at this point and the y value at this point will give you the range. So in this case, my range will be y, an element of -10 is the bottom one and +10 is the top one. And we can move on again and we say, what if we wanted to find the range again, but now they don't give us the full graph, and also our graph is not oscillating around that axis. So now you are looking at a graph, and this one, the lowest point of this graph is -3 and the highest point here is 12. Now this graph is clearly not going around the x-axis. It's rotating around a different number, and if you want to know where it's rotating and if you want to know which number it's rotating, you're going to say 12 plus 3 going down as 15. So it's going to rotate around somewhere like 7,5 there. Do you see that? That means that's the midpoint between the 3, the -3 and the +12. But that's got nothing to do with our range. I was just talking about that. Let's now look at our range. Our range, we are looking at the y value here and the y value there. You see, or the y value there. So the y value there, y is an element of the bottom one. The y value is -3 and the top one is 12. You see, it's very simple to get it from the graph. So range is actually a very simple graph. Now let's look at domain. Let's look at our domain. So let's just go on and say we're now looking at domain. Now usually for the sine and the cos graphs, the domain is quite clear. The domain for this graph here, for the sine and the cos graph is really quite clear, depending on what they've given you. So if they ask you for the domain of this graph, usually it's x, an element of real numbers, usually all values of x. And if they don't specify a given domain, normally the domain, they don't normally ask for it, but if they do ask for it, normally it's x, an element of all real numbers. And that's for the cos graph and the sine graph. But usually this question is very vague and it's not commonly asked.